Hi everyone, today is the seventh day of this workshop and today we will go straight into the practical. I know a lot of parents asking a question like, how can I get my child to remember things? How can I get my child to understand and for my child to able to keep it into their memory? Well, today I want to show you a little trick how you can or principles that you can apply that will help your child remember. Example. Now, our children at from birth, we know that babies make contact with their eyes. So they look at us and they observe us. Right before they can even talk, they use their eyes to contact us. And we can look at their eyes and know that something is wrong. So now we have to use that same principle that child applies. So when that child is young, that child will look at us, observe us well. Here goes the example. Now, this mother, she know that she wants her child to be very smart at an early age and very bright. So she decided now to write out that child's name and put it on a name tag. And she rested right at the side of the cradle. Now, every time she enter into the room and she look at her baby, she would say, hi, and she would point at that name. Let's say the child's name is Sue. She would say, hi, Sue, and she would point at that name and look at her baby. So every time she does that, the baby would observe that she would come and she would point at that name and she would say, hi, Sue, and then the mother would point at her. So as the child grow now, that child realized that name that she's saying, the word that is coming out of the mother mouth relates to her. So as a child grow and the child know to speak, the child will not know to speak. As a child started repeating the mother, the child would say, Sue, Sue, and the mother now would say, Sue, Sue, and the mother would point to the name and point to the child. Now the child will understand that that's my name, so the child would say Sue, Sue. Now as that child grow, now the mother would realize that a child is old enough for her to say, this is your name. Your name is Sue. And the mother would point again to the wall. Your name is Sue. So first of all, that child would know how to recognize that name. Why? Because the mother had it there and the mother would interact with the child. That child could not have understood it at an early age, but as the child grew, the child realized that, and the child started to call her name, and her name was Sue. So the mother took the name off, and she write more names. So she had a lot more of her child's name, and she placed it all over her home where the child can see that name. She would place it on the refrigerator. She would place it on the bottom of the cupboard. And even into her car, she would put that child's name. So wherever that child goes, that child would recognize her name all over, and it makes her remember that name. And she can recognize that name because she can see it all over in the home, right? So that mother was very smart. So because that mother did that, it helped that child to remember, to retain, and to understand that it's her name. Before she could have even spelled her name, she could have recognized her name and say her name. So that's what we want, right? We want to ensure that we apply these principles to our children instead of rushing the work into them. You take your time and the child gradually learn his or her name, numbers, letters, colors. You can apply the same thing, but when you want to teach your child other things like shapes and picture reading and all of that. So if we use that same principle, when that child meet older now, that child is ready to spell his or her name, that child will already recognize it, then you can start spelling the name with the child one letter at a time. Most parents will go right through, but it's important that you take your time and allow that child to understand. So by consistently doing it, you would see that. So today, what I want us to do as a class is that the first thing I would like you to do is write your child's name on a piece of paper. Now here you go. Here I have different color paper here, construction paper, right? You can use white, you can use any color, but children, because they love colors and colors are always sketchy, it's good to use colored paper when you want to work with children, small children. So you take a piece of paper and you fold it in half, right? Now I'm showing you how you can write your child's name, and you fold it in half. And you want to cut it out here. So I would like for you to do more than one because you want to place a child's name where that child would be most of the time and the areas in the home that that child would love to be. And remember that you have to place the name tag at the height of that child so the child can interact with his or her name and touch it. So you ensure you don't place it too high but really low. Now you can take a ruler. Let's say your child is Sue, right? Because I did give you an example of Sue. So you want to use the big letters and ensure the first letter would be in the uppercase, but ensure you don't use the other letters. All should not be in the uppercase, only the first letter, right? So you want to write. So we're going to spell the use this child name here as Sue. Now you can take a marker now because you want to ensure. You see here? So I'm going to take the marker and cover it over because I want it to be visible to the child. So this is what you do, right? So by doing this and applying this principle, it will help your child. You want your child to remember things, isn't that so? You want your child to remember. For your child to remember things, you have to start early. And you can't push it into the child. No, that's not the right way to teach. The right way to teach is for that child must gradually learn. And that child can learn by seeing, observing, and it can download in a child memory bank. Right? So for example, as an adult, when we learn something, let's say we learn a color green or the green leaves. Let's say today I learned about the green leaves. Now that adult already have green downloaded in her memory bank, right? So when she learned the color green leaves today, she knew that registered into her memory bank because she would have recognized the color before, and it was easy for that adult to remember it. But when you're dealing with children, because that child is small and that child had less exposure to the color green or letters, it takes a little while for it to download. So by you doing it often and saying it often, here you go. You see that? So you want to do it large. So you can even do your child's name large, but ensure the first letter would be in the uppercase and all the other letters would be in the lowercase letters. And when you do this now, because you're placing it at the different corners in your home, you want to cover it over so that it would last for a while. So you can use a piece of Scotch tape. Alright, you take a piece of the Scotch tape and you place it down and that name, and you turn it over, and you want to put another piece at the back of it because you don't want it to get wet. So you want to put another piece. Oh yes, this is what happens. Yes, first I'm using the large Scotch tape. All right, so you want to apply it right to the back and all the edges and the leave over part, you will cut it out. All right, let me see here. So you're taking off the edges. Now I would like for you, class, to make like 2 to 3 name tags for your child. And you would apply the same principle to numbers. All right? And this, here you go. So it's covered back and front with the plastic. Right? So now you can put the child's name right on the child's bed, on the refrigerator. You can place the name on the kitchen cupboard at the bottom. Where else more and in that special corner where you set aside for fun corner, because in your home, remember I taught you that in our early lesson that you need to set aside that area where that child knows that this is my area to work. So you set aside that corner, and in that corner you place the child's name. Now, if your child is 2 to 3 years old, use the first name. Don't use a second name as yet. When that child meets 4 years old, then you're gonna introduce that child to the other name, right? The surname. So you use the first name. You don't want to confuse the children. Some of us has push it too much. And when we push it and the child can't remember, we're all upset. But we have to take our time with them because they're learning, right? And remember, I told you about a memory bank. By consistently applying these methods and these principles, the child will understand. But you pushing that child would not understand, okay? So now, you place the name where the child can see it. Now, let's say you're dealing with numbers. So you want your child to learn numbers. Don't use all the numbers at the same time. Use one number at a time. When your child knows one number, then you can move on to the other. If you're doing letters, use one letter at a time. A lot of us like to buy the ABC chart and put it up in our homes and put it to the children. This is A, this is B. It is not the correct way to do it. The correct way to do it is start with one letter at a time. Because think about you watching a whole chart with letters. What's going to go on in that little child's mind? It's going to be too much of confusion going on. So you need to lower the pace down and start with one letter at a time. You will get more results when you start with one at a time. Even their names, one letter. When a child knows one letter, you move on to the other letter. Right? So this is what I want you to do. You take the names and you place it at every corner that your child would be if you want your child to know his or her name. When your child can recognize the name, the second step is recognizing it. After recognizing it, then you start put the name into a book, and then the child can be able to point out and recognize it from the book. Right? So visually, and then you want to do it in the book second. After putting it in the book now, then you start allowing that child to trace that name, right? So you allow the child to trace the name. So on the next video, I will show you how you can start teaching your child to trace. And after tracing, then it's writing. And after writing, during the course of tracing, you start working with the song of the letters for your child. So this is about the letters and how you can help your children to understand, to remember, to retain all the things that you want them to do it. You have to ensure it's available visually for the child to see it every day. That's why the school has a setting where it's conducive for learning, because the teacher would always have numbers up, the teacher would always have letters up. So that's what you have to do. Bring a little of the school into your home so you can have numbers and letters up so the child can see it every day. So it will download in a child memory bank, and the child will be able to comprehend now when you say to that child, this is A, this is B, this is 1, this is 2. So parents, thank you very much for listening, and I know your homework today, class, your homework is to write your child's name. If your child is 4 plus up, you use both names. If your child is below 4, you use the first name only. So that's what you have to do for me. Thank you.